Okay, so now we're here at the session with Matt Savas and Dave about transforming GE appliances through innovation, co-creation, and customer focus. In the parallel sessions, we have a Tartine Challenge Series game happening now, and also we have an option of daily management to solve problems and develop people every day. Also in the parallel session with José Roberto Ferro and Fábio Villabella. So it's a pleasure to see you guys. Pleasure to see you, Matt. And I will leave you here on stage. See you soon.
Thank you so much, Christopher. I'm really excited about this next session. We're joined by Dave Leone, and Dave is a visionary engineer who leads digital transformation at GE Appliances. As head of digital engineering, he's passionate about digital product development. And he's at the forefront of revolutionizing the tools, people, and processes driving innovation at GE Appliances. He's implemented industry leading 3D metrology and digital engineering tools globally inside the company. And I would just like to ask you all to please join me in welcoming Dave to the main stage. Take it away, Dave.
Matt, thank you. And to everyone, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. So a little bit about GE Appliances for those that aren't familiar. We manufacture a full suite of kitchen appliances. Quite an iconic brand in the United States, been around for 125 years or so. So quite a legacy of manufacturing appliances. And I'm going to share a little bit about some transformation that we've gone through, really starting around 2016, 2017 timeframe. So moving forward with that, so one of the things that we adopted in 2017 is really what we call an entrepreneurial focus, where we organize the business through a strategy really powered by micro enterprises, where the micro enterprises are really each business unit, if you will, where they're independent and they're grounded and guided by the local markets, so they can really deliver for the consumer what the consumer needs. And then, each micro enterprise is supported by platforms. Of course, my team would be a platform team supporting dimensional control, metrology, really kind of R&D skill set, if you will. And what's interesting is, the way to think about it is the micro enterprises really define the what, and the platforms define the how. And that's quite an interesting proposition. So I'll elaborate for a minute. So the micro enterprises would define what is best for the customer, and how do we meet those needs? What are the customers really asking for? And then the platforms really define how that work gets done, and how we achieve that in really an efficient and highly crafted way. So it's quite an interesting journey for us. It's also part of zero distance philosophy, where we really challenge our engineers and our teams to really think and act like entrepreneurs. So I'll give some examples here going forward. Let me give you a second here. Oh, one too many. And so we really call this, maximizing the human potential. And I'm going to give 3 examples around zero distance, entrepreneurship, and co-creation. And they're actually quite interesting. And I would say, prior to the transformation I just discussed, and kind of restructuring how we think about delivering for the consumer between a micro enterprise structure supported by the platforms, I don't know that we would have been able to do some of the things I'm about to share with you, really with the old kind of legacy thinking. So first example is an example of entrepreneurship. So this is a very interesting story, very personal to me. I actually helped drive this one personally, where we got an opportunity to benchmark some parallel industries, primarily automotive. And there's some really interesting parallels between the appliance industry and automotive industry. And upon some go and sees around 2016, we saw that the automotive industry had significantly advanced beyond where we were from a technical execution, the tools that we use, how we think about product and process design, how we think about craftsmanship. one of the things that I saw that was so taken back by is 3D scanning. So you can see that on the right hand side of the screen. And I remember spending some time with one of the engineers, and I remember commenting, this is very interesting, but what does it do? Like, what is the scanner? Like, obviously, it's cool, like flashing lights, but what does it do? And it wasn't until I understood that with this technology, we were able to essentially map, in this case, the hood of a car, kind of define the shape of a part and really see it as a color. And so it really set off. It triggered something in me personally, and I recognized right there at that moment that there's a whole new way of working that we had not been taking advantage of. And of course, with some discussions with our now CEO, right, the discussion was, hey, this industry has advanced decades ahead of us. We got to go. We absolutely have to go. And he said, what do you need? And I said, I need a team. I need some investment, and we can go do this. And so he really empowered the entrepreneur in me to really go and do something quite special. And if you take a look at this journey, it's really quite remarkable how fast, from benchmarking in 2015, 2016, launching 3D scanning, which we had none of it. We were in linear dimension drawings at the time. We moved to geometric dimensioning and tolerancing, then learned how to annotate with model-based definition. Then we stood up our first dimensional control team, 3D metrology team. By 2019, we were doing our first dimensional control programs, where we were for the first time able to, using the tools, using the processes, and upskilling our people, we were able to design and develop and achieve much higher product and process excellence than we had ever achieved before. Of course, then around that same time, standing up dimensional variation analysis capability, and then on to scanning in all factories and automated reports and some really interesting automation that we're now working on. But this is a really interesting example that a lot of companies really would have been pretty excited to do one of these things. And over the last 8 years, we were able to do all of these things. And for sure, that would not be possible if we weren't grounded, with this startup-like entrepreneurial spirit. We've really transformed away from a hierarchical, top-down kind of, you only do it if your manager says or asks you to do it, versus kind of turning the organization upside down and like grassroots entrepreneurs really thinking about what's right for the business, where do I take this, and going exploring and being willing to take some risks and learn and grow. So it's actually quite remarkable. And of course, what we've started has now gone global, and we are driving this at all of the sister companies within our company portfolio, not just in GE Appliances here in the US, but in Mexico, New Zealand, China, and of course in Europe as well. So it's quite an interesting transformation. And if anybody wants to connect with me offline, I would be more than glad to share a little bit more of that journey and technical details. Second example, co-creation. So this is an interesting one. So here's an example where our CEO, Kevin Nolan, really, again, in his visionary thinking, recognized that we need to do something different when we think about cutting edge product development and really developing and empowering the users to really tell us what they want, versus us sitting around the table defining what's best for them. And so we created, next to the University of Louisville downtown, he created FirstBuild. And it's a facility that is essentially a makerspace where people can go and create things. On the right-hand side of the slide there, upper right-hand corner, that's a view of the makerspace where people are encouraged to come in, and everybody's welcome. Just essentially clean up after yourself. Put the tools back, right? Stay safe, and come and make something. If you have an idea, come and create it. And then it's quite an interesting dynamic place, a lot of traction through this makerspace. On the left is a screenshot of the website that FirstBuild hosts, where they crowdsource ideas. And it's such an interesting concept. It starts out with someone posting on this message board saying, hey, I have an idea for whatever that might be, nugget ice machine or something, or whatever it is. And then that idea may gain some traction, and some people may reply to that, oh yeah, it would be great if also we could do this or it could do that. And so it starts to kind of gel and kind of morph into, at some point, we've created so much energy around this product, it's time to go try something. Let's go make one. And then that's our job. So the FirstBuild team will go off and make a prototype, and they'll take it back to the user group and say, is this what you were thinking? And then, of course, the back and forth and the iterations, and eventually, many of these projects have turned into, an Indiegogo Kickstarter, where essentially, we'll go out and fund the development of these products. And in the case of the Nugget Ice Maker, which I'll talk about, I think it was multi-millions of dollars, actually, the Indiegogo. So it's quite interesting where products are being created really out of an idea, and the ideas are really coming from the consumers, and it's really a co-creation way of thinking. So for sure, we've got the large platforms and the developed home kitchen appliances, all the suites, and a lot of that is continually being innovated, but it's a very mature product. Here's an example of really starting with these niche products from the ground up, and really creating stuff that otherwise wouldn't exist if you weren't crowdsourcing these ideas. On the bottom right there is actually a mushroom growing incubator that was started out of FirstBuild's website, and some people saying, hey, I love mushrooms, I'd love to be able to grow them at home. Could we design and make a product like that? It's quite interesting. So all these products have come from this. So on the left is the indoor pizza oven. It's quite remarkable. You can cook quite well done artisan pizza, if you will, in a matter of minutes. It's very powerful. It also has smoke containment, where some internal catalysts can actually consume that smoke, so you're not filling your home full of smoke, as you can imagine. And that all started out of an idea. In the middle is the Opal Nugget Ice Maker, which I've lost track of how many we've manufactured and sold, but it's quite a viable product, and people really love that product. On the upper right is an indoor smoker. In the U.S. anyway, smoking food is quite a popular thing. And so the idea was, well, if we can manage the smoke from the pizza oven, what if we could take that same technology and make a countertop indoor smoker that essentially is smokeless, right? Within the home. It has a way of consuming and burning off that smoke. And again, that product is wildly successful, right? So it started with an idea, and then there's on the bottom right, it's the mushroom growing incubator. So quite interesting. And so just another example of the company culture supporting co-creation innovation in a way that really would not be possible otherwise. The last example here is zero distance, right? So the commitment to growing closer to consumers, and making sure that we meet their needs where they are. And one of the ways we are doing that is through what we call Smart HQ. So we've actually developed, we're one of the first manufacturers appliance manufacturers to offer a full suite of connected appliances. It's scaled now to 700, 800 Wi-Fi connected models. Just an absolute ton of data. We're able to do some amazing things like over-the-air update, give consumers air fry in an oven that wouldn't have a feature that it wasn't in place when they purchased the product, right? So we're adding features and functionality through over-the-air updates. Monitor any type of diagnosis if there's any abnormal performance. Push notifications for whatever might be helpful for them, right? So we're really enriching the experience, and the ownership, really define the ownership as an experience versus, in the old way, it was very transactional. Some goods exchanged hands, and then you kind of had what you had, and until you bought a newer model. And here it's quite an interesting way of thinking. The scale of it is quite amazing now. Hundreds of millions of appliances, interactions, push notifications, billions of cycles, just tremendous amount of data, rich data, and things we're able to do with that for the consumer. And again, this really wouldn't have been possible otherwise. Here's a little video. Hopefully the audio will play for you guys.
At GE Appliances, innovation, curiosity, and continuous learning are ingrained in our DNA, and we're always exploring new technologies to reimagine life at home. That's why we forged an innovative collaboration with Google to develop 2 new app features powered by generative AI. These are now available to anyone who downloads the SmartHQ app. Introducing Flavorly AI. Our recipe generator uses generative AI to create unique recipes based on the selected course, cuisine, dietary restrictions, and ingredients. Turn your kitchen into a hub of exploration and innovation. Reduce food waste to solve the what's for dinner dilemma once and for all. You can even save your most used recipes as favorites in the app. Also introducing SmartHQ Assistant powered by AI. Streamline your junk drawer stacked with user manuals and get answers from the palm of your hand. A conversational experience provides answers on your GE Appliances use and care using generative AI. Our aim is to be at the forefront of consumer centricity, and this partnership with Google is a prime example of our commitment to provide consumers with the seamless, personalized experiences they want.
And so, kind of wrapping it up here, and we'll open it up for questions. When you think about what I started this thing off with is, restructuring the business to really think and act differently, right? Maximizing human potential, zero distance to the consumer, a culture of co-creation, innovation, really thinking like a startup, as a result, and/or, feeding all of that. Since the time frame, we've invested, $2 billion in products, digital technology, whether it's 3D scanning, metrology, cutting edge dimensional control, SmartHQ, co-create. There's actually 2 co-create facilities, FirstBuild and co-create in Connecticut as well. So it's just an amazing transformation that I got to say wouldn't really been possible. I don't know how many companies reinvent their DNA, but I would say we're one of them. And the byproducts of doing that and thinking and acting differently has been remarkable. And then a testament to that, right? Since that time frame, we've frankly doubled our business. We've doubled our business, and we're in our products in more than half the homes in the U.S. And the plan is to continue driving and growing, right? So with that, let's open it up for any questions.
Yeah, thanks for that great presentation, Dave. We already have a few questions that are coming in from the audience. So I'll ask one here from, I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Ophelia Burns. Ophelia asks, is FirstBuild owned by GE Appliances, and who can go there to come up with ideas?
It is owned by GE Appliances. It's actually a bit of a... It is owned by GE Appliances, and it's right on the campus of University of Louisville. So they were involved with it right from the beginning, but it is owned by GE Appliances. And the answer is anybody can come. Anybody off the street can come and make something. Like I said, get trained on some of the equipment, stay safe, put your tools back, right? Keep things clean, and come and make something. Take that idea that's in your head and go make something. If it doesn't work, keep trying. Share it with the community. Post it on the message board. Hey, I was thinking of this. I was thinking of that. It's amazing where some of these products come from. And like I said, there's no way we could sit around the board table and come up with some of the stuff that the community is coming up, because how do we know, right? As an appliance manufacturer, or frankly, any manufacturer, our job is to bring to life what the consumer is envisioning, not for us to sit around and figure out what it is they want. They tell us what they want. Our job is to make it happen, right? That's how this should work. And that's exactly what we're doing with Co-Create and FirstBuild.
Mm.
Yep.
Another question here from Juan. Hoyos. He asks, how have you measured the impact of value of this transformation journey?
That's a great question. I would argue, we try not to get too caught up in the ROI discussion because, the ROI is, return on investment, because it's one of those metrics I think really holds back transformation. Sometimes technologies and processes and things come along that fundamentally change the game for companies, and it's hard to truly quantify the financial impact of some of these transformations. It's like, for example, if we can design and develop through the digital transformation and dimensional control principles and things that we've learned from benchmarking parallel industries, if we can design and develop higher fidelity, higher crafted products, and we have less challenges and problems launching those products, along the program cycle, what's that worth? How do you quantify the cost savings of a problem you didn't have? Right. So it becomes very circular and difficult to discuss. And I think it's our job as engineers and leaders to use a little bit of engineering logic and say, this is just fundamentally better way of working, and this is how it needs to be done. And you just go.
Hmm. A kind of practical question here from David Smith. He asks, as appliances become increasingly complex with computers and electronics, their lifespan maybe, I don't know, shrinking. And he's wondering, he says, I'd kind of like to just have a mechanical appliance that lasts 15 to 20 years. How does GE Appliances handle that trade-off between increasing complexity that, adds value to consumers, but may also, lead to shorter lifespan? Or maybe
Yeah,
it doesn't. I don't know.
it's a great question. I mean, reliability has always been a focus. It's been a focus for a long, long time, and it's one that I feel like we've excelled at as a company. It's kind of in our DNA. But there is a challenge. The more electrification and digitization you impart on the products, the more you have to stay on top of new failure modes and interactions and things like that. So you're constantly having to stretch and grow and adapt. Automotive's the exact same way. They're trying to figure out how to, completely reinvent the product architecture of a car, as I think, as they call it, software-driven design, or some acronym where essentially the car is essentially a computer, the hardware supports the computer. So
Mm,
it is a constant struggle, and it's I would say the products definitely used to be simpler, and it's definitely a challenge to stay on top of that transformation. Yeah.
well, something that's just really struck me, and you mentioned at the end where you talked about how GE Appliances, its sort of whole DNA has been transformed over the last few years. That's pretty rare for a company of GE Appliances size. And what do you attribute that to? How has it become such a innovative company willing to take on new risks in such a short period of time?
I mean, I would test it. I would primarily, I would give most of the credit to Kevin Nolan, our CEO. Kevin is very, very growth minded, very, very much on an infinite mindset, right? So constantly seeing trends, constantly challenging the status quo, not getting too tied up in bureaucracy, willing to experiment, test, learn, and then obviously continue to pivot. And that DNA kind of transcends down through the business. I mean, frankly, he was the one that I had discussion with about the benchmarking opportunities. Here we were faced with a paradigm shift in product and process design, recognizing that we were frankly 20 or 30 years behind the automotive industry. And then we had a pretty frank discussion about what is it going to take to go do this. And there wasn't a whole lot of, we didn't try to talk ourselves out of it, right? It was
Mm,
essentially, we got to go. I mean, it was a pretty short kind of parking lot discussion, right? In passing, like, let's go. Like, this is happening. What do you need? I need this. All right, you got it. Go. And it was, things don't always work that way, right? Most companies would get hamstrung trying to justify this
yeah, it's
versus
the
using
ROI discussion that
engineering
you talked about
intuition to
earlier.
say, this
Mm,
is so much better than how we work. We have to transform right? Our tools, people, and processes to leverage the best of what has been well established in other industries, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, it seems to be a big difference from sort of product-focused companies versus finance-focused companies. And the more emphasis you can just put toward developing great products, the money just kind of follows. Whereas if you're constantly trying to justify things with spreadsheets that are inevitably going to be wrong, nobody can accurately predict the future. You can fall behind pretty quickly.
100%. That's actually one of my, I'm so glad you said that, man. That's one of my favorite things to talk about. And it's quite evident when you look at, you know, CEOs as engineers is a good thing, right? That tends to be a
You're
common
not saying
theme.
that
You
just
look,
because you're an engineer, Dave.
no, Kevin is an engineer's engineer, right? And it's amazing because at the end of the day, he's a product-centric individual. And exactly right. If you chase the money, you will make decisions that are financially driven, not necessarily what's best for the product or the consumer. But if you're a product-centric company, the finances tend to follow execution of product and process excellence.
Mhm.
Yep.
We have a question here about the micro enterprise approach to organizing. And could you share more about the approach and if there are additional resources or information on it? How did you guys learn that approach?
So I do encourage you. There's actually, Matt, you could probably help me out. I think it was Gary Hamill and what the name of their podcast? The New Human Movement. Does that sound right?
Okay. Well, I don't know. I can't help you out actually, Dave. I
Uh,
wish I could.
anyway, um, so Kevin did a podcast talking. It's a 2-hour podcast at least, talking exactly about this topic, and it's really really interesting. I encourage you guys to go and listen up. I can actually, since
We
we
just
got,
used ChatGPT. You're right. It is the New Human Movement. Yes, by Dave Hamill. Yeah,
yep,
and he has a
and
podcast with Kevin Nolan.
yes, podcast with Kevin Nolan on the New Human Movement. I encourage you to go and watch that. It will do more justification than we can do here in the next 3 minutes, but it's really good, really really interesting. And like I'll talk about this for a second, and Kevin, we'll talk about it in that podcast if you tune in. But before this, we used to, all the product lines basically were the success of, say, refrigeration versus cooking versus home laundry. All that kind of got blended into the success of the company. We really didn't have line of sight to what business units were doing well. And so, one business unit might be doing very well financially, the other ones might be not doing so well, and all of that got aggregated into, well, how are we doing overall? And so that was that was not a good thing. Second thing is the business units in that structure didn't have the autonomy to make the decisions that they needed to make to be successful in their market with their consumer. And so by breaking all that up and eliminating some of that bureaucracy, they're able to be more nimble, more agile, and take and make those decisions that they need to win and to deliver.
Yeah, putting decision making in the people closest to the customer who are in charge
That's right.
of the product.
Yeah.
Almost
And the
always a
ultimate
good thing.
example is FirstBuild. Like that's the ultimate example.
Right.
Literally, the products come from the consumers from an idea, which is amazing. Yeah.
All right, I think we have time for one more question here. This one from Marcia Peterson. She asks, how do you combine technology and manufacturing? How do you integrate those two things? Or how do they work together?
It's a constant sliding curve, because the digital tools are continuing to evolve. So trying to integrate those as best we can is constantly, I think a lot of people are on the forefront of that, trying to do that. You've got all these new technologies with AI, and people talk about industry 4.0, and making smart decisions around product and process and self feedback, and it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge, but you just have to jump in and learn. I mean, we're still learning for sure, but ultimately you learn by doing. And there's no one size fits all, but I would definitely don't ever stop looking externally is probably the thing I would say, because you'll stagnate, and then the technology will be irrelevant. So you really have to keep an eye on
Guys,
who's doing what well. Yep.
Dave,
Chris.
Matt, thank you. The time is up. Thank you. Please
Dave.
go to the lobby, exchange with people, some contacts there. Thank you.